But congratulations again to the member for Tamworth.
We're proceeding with private member statements. I call the member for Balmain.
Thank you very much, Mr Temporary Speaker. I rise today to speak about an important development issue that will have significant impacts in my electorate. In 2010, the owner of the former Balmain Leagues Club site proposed a development which included a structure of 5 and 11 storeys. As Mayor of Leichhardt Council, I was on the Joint and Regional Planning Panel which unanimously rejected that application because of its size, design and traffic impact. In the dying days of the former Labor government, the proposal was declared a major project under Part 3A, which means it will now be decided by a panel of government appointees, the PAC. The current government did not support Leichhardt Council's request to bring the decision for this development back to the community, and I'm very disappointed in that response. Yet the current owner and the developer of the site, Rozelle Village Proprietary Limited, has submitted a new plan, a new proposal, which, Mr Temporary Speaker, you would imagine would be smaller and more modest, but in fact is significantly larger. It doubles the number of apartments to 304, triples the commercial floor space, and increases parking to 834 spaces. The total gross floor area of the development is now 54,974 square metres. The plan includes excavation of 8 basement levels and construction of a 5-6-storey podium and 3 towers, 2 at 26 storeys and 1 at 32 storeys. And these towers are linked, so the developer describes them as one tower. This is totally out of step with the pattern of development in the area of Rozelle, which is predominantly 2-storey. However, despite these increases, I should say, Mr Temporary Speaker, the Leagues Club will still only comprise of less than 5% of the total development. I'm a strong supporter of the Balmain Leagues Club, and I support sustainable and appropriate development for this former club site. I note that in May, over 500 residents attended a public meeting on this matter, passing a resolution strongly supporting return of the club, but not in favour of supporting a development which is almost twice the size of a development that was unanimously refused by the Joint Regional Planning Panel. My concern in particular, Mr Temporary Speaker, is that of local business. I'm a very strong supporter of our local business, and it's one of the things that makes my community great. And there's well-founded concerns that this development will cripple Darling Street in particular. The new plan includes 13,971 square metres of retail floor space, gross floor area. Compare this to the existing total retail floor space in the entire Rozelle strip, which is less than 12,000 square metres, almost 2,000 square metres more. The developer's own economic impact assessment states that Balmain Rozelle traders will suffer a loss of up to 11.2%, equal to 24.4 million in turnover relative to turnover otherwise achievable in 2016. There are also concerns that the developer's economic impact assessment report underestimates the performance of the specialty stores in the proposed development compared to the performance average of Sydney specialty outlets. This underestimation has allowed the developer to downplay the impacts on small business in my community. I also note, Mr Temporary Speaker, that the Balmain Rozelle Chamber of Commerce is strongly opposed to this development. The development exceeds the planning controls for height, for bulk, for scale, for density, and is not in keeping with the village feel of the surrounding suburb. There are also significant privacy and overshadowing issues. Local streets, as you all know, are heavily congested, and Victoria Road is a very slow-moving major arterial road. This development will further slow Victoria Road and further reduce performance of the road network in surrounding streets. I also note that this development requires a significant removal of parking on the high streets and on Victoria Road, which will also impact on our local business that requires this parking for their business. I wanted to conclude by noting that there's no strategic reason why this development should proceed. Providing new housing stock is a critical task of local and state government. Leichhardt Council has reviewed the Sydney Metropolitan Plan and the Towards 2036 document. The report, which was supported in terms of its methodology by the New South Wales Department of Planning on the 21st of June 2010, who agreed that the methodology Council used to calculate residential capacity was sound. The outcome of the residential development strategy analysis undertaken by Council demonstrated that, quote, Council can meet its obligations and targets contained within the Metropolitan Strategy and the Draft Inner West Sub-Regional Strategy and maintain the character and style of development currently being approved pursuant to the controls in the LEP, end quote. So Council will meet and in fact will exceed by almost 20% the new housing dwelling numbers which are required by this government, which Council should be meeting. We should be providing new housing. This development isn't critical for making that happen. It's also important to note that Council recently finished a development proposal with the owner of the Carrier air conditioning site, rezoning it from industrial to residential, a very positive outcome. Mr Temporary Speaker, I call on all residents and this House also to note the fact that residents are making submissions. Those submissions should be sent to the PAC and residents and businesses should be putting forward their views very strongly. I also encourage all residents to attend the council meeting, which will be held on the 6th of June at 6:30 at Balmain Town Hall, to put their views forward. Over 500 people have already expressed their views in a public meeting. I encourage people to participate strongly in this debate, and I acknowledge the role of those local residents who are fighting for their local community, for small business and for a sound future for Balmain Rozelle.
We are proceeding with private member statements.